Good evening, welcome to another Hot Topic where we discuss the issues of the day in East Yorkshire and Northern Lincolnshire. Tata Steel in Scunthorpe recently announced the loss of 1,200 jobs, 900 of them in Scunthorpe, and the plant is losing a devastating number of people, devastating both for its employees and for the local economy. A special task force has been set up by North Lincolnshire Council in a bid to save jobs. Council leader Liz Redfern said every job loss will be a tragedy. Joining me in the studio to discuss the redundancies at Tata Steel are my guests tonight. Jenny Couch, who is the Head of Economic Development and Area Renaissance at North Lincolnshire Council, and I'm also joined by Matthew Cook, who's a branch chairman within the Community Union, a trade union which represents workers in the iron and steel industries. Welcome to Hot Topic. I'm Hugh Richards. Before we start, let's see how the people of Scunthorpe reacted to the news of job losses at Tata Steel.
The lads in there today are absolutely devastated by the news. We don't think it's coincidental that the news is being broken on today, on the day that the Chinese Premier visits here and has the red carpet rolled out to him. We're very devastated by today's announcement. It's going to affect a lot of families. A lot of people are going to be worried for their futures.
Well, it's concerning for me personally because that's where I work. So obviously worrying times for everyone really. But it's been brewing for a while, but it's been like living with a cloud over our heads really. We've been wanting to know answers for quite a while now, and I think people are still wondering why and you know how it's come about. Worrying times.
It's utter devastation. My heart goes out to them. I've been up at Teesside in support of the Redcar steelworkers, and I've witnessed firsthand the utter devastation up there. Just coming up to Christmas, people, families with mortgages. These are real people with real families, and I don't think Mr Cameron understands this. And it just seems to me as though he's turning his back on the industry.
It will kill Scunthorpe completely, because it's not just the steel work, it's all the ancillary trades outside that do jobs for them. They're all going to be out of work. It'll cripple Scunthorpe completely.
What would your message be to the government?
Step in and help. I mean, even if it's only an interim measure until they can find somebody who's prepared to take it on.
They're clearly doing nothing about it. They're doing nothing about Teesside. They're not doing a change for Scunthorpe. And the steel industry is the basics of industry in this country. It's a stable industry, isn't it?
Heart of the town, if this goes, the town's already on its knees. This will just, it's on the floor after this. There's homeless on the streets, and it's getting worse.
I think the damage is done now, I'm afraid. You know, maybe something should have been done a bit earlier. But as I said, it was the same at Lysaght at Steelworks. It was terrible them days, you know. It took me 9 years to get another job. I was out of work 9 years. I had to live off my land, off me allotment. I had 3 kids, I had them to feed and clothes and everything like that. It was absolutely mayhem.
So some fairly predictable views from the streets of Scunthorpe there. Jenny, can I start with you? Population of about 73,000 in Scunthorpe, 900 job losses doesn't seem a very high number against that number of the total population.
No, but it's not just the job numbers, it's the effect that it will have in the sort of local economy. There may be some families that are affected. It might be that there's a husband and wife team that both work there. So it will have sort of an effect in relation to sort of, you know, whether there's relatives there as well. So it's not just the job numbers, it's the supply chain as well.
Well, and it's the supply chain of people supplying the plant,
yeah.
But it's also all the shops that are selling things to all the people who work there and their families and their extensions.
Yeah, and it's really important that, you know, as a local authority and particularly as a task force, we all work together to try and replace those jobs and actually create more jobs than we're losing. So, you know, we do sustain our economy.
Well, we'll come on to that. Matthew, you're, as well as being the union chairman, branch chairman, you work at the steel plant. Just quickly tell us, well, first of all, is your job fairly safe?
My job is one of the safer ones, but there's no really safe jobs. With it being such a large number, we're doing our best to work with voluntary redundancies and get people away that want to go and not have to force anybody away, but it's a very high number for the workforce that's left there.
Just so that we've got a picture, I think we can all imagine the steelworks. What is your job?
I work at the Scunthorpe Rod Mill, so in my job I essentially, we get steel coils down and steel rod, and I look at it to make sure that it's for customer specifications and sent away to the correct customers. So I deal with, you know, the steel rolling side of things to make sure everything's fine, and then I also deal with the customer side of things, speaking to people, making sure that, you know, we're sending them what they want, really.
Okay. Just let's try to review what are the causes of these job losses. Tata Steel's laid off 900 jobs, and why? Why is the steelworks not making money?
Well, there's a large number of external factors that we can't do anything about. We don't feel that we work on a level playing field within Europe. We all work to the same rules, but it seems that Germany and France and Italy, they interpret them rules a different way, and they're helping out their steel industries, you know, from a government level. You know, if you couple that with the government's willingness to tender to the Chinese steel market, where there is a surplus of steel and that's coming onto our market, it's just impossible to compete.
But it is European rules. I mean, I was surprised that Germany isn't obeying European rules in the same way that we are. But either way, the European rule is that we can't put up tariffs, our own tariffs, against the Chinese.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain factors within that rule. You know, if it's for technology and research, and we are, you know, looking at new ways to roll steel and new ways to make steel, you know, the government is allowed to fund the steel industry. And also, if you're looking to lower your carbon footprint and become better for the environment, you can also gain funding that way. And that's really what we're trying to tackle. In order to keep up with the steel trade, you know, we need to invest in moving forward. I think it's a great testament to a lot of steel workers. For instance, at the rod mill where I work, it's 40 years old, and all our competitors are 10, 15 years old. So we need that investment to keep up, and you know, that is how Germany have got around it, that's how Italy have got around it. They are investing for new technologies, and therefore can give money to their steel industry.
Jenny, there's just sort of behind that, and that there's the new technology, of course, is worth investing in, but there's just the brute fact that in 2008, a ton of steel cost $1,200, and this year a ton of steel costs $300. And this is because China the production has doubled in 50 years, and they're making about 800 million tons of steel now, and that's just a brute economic fact that can't really be fought in any way, can it?
No, and unfortunately, you know, the businesses out there, they're out there to make a profit, and they're looking at their costs amongst all things. I think one of the positive things about the Scunthorpe site is the quality of the steel, and unfortunately I think that's the message that we need to get out there about the quality of the product that we produce locally.
But is it particularly high quality steel produced at Scunthorpe?
I think it is.
Matthew, without criticising your craftsmanship.
Yeah, well, I work in the actual technical department, so I can assure you that everything that leaves the rod mill is of the highest standard, and it really is. And I think, you know, relatively small population, everybody knows somebody on the steelworks, and people enjoy working in steel. They want to work in steel, and if you enjoy what you're doing and you are passionate about what you're doing, then you do a better job for it.
It must be said there that Scunthorpe tends to produce rails and rods and bars rather than the more high quality, you know, for instance, panelling and things like that might be required in the car industry.
Yeah, I think it's the plates industry at Scunthorpe that is really being hit hardest. Obviously, is being mothballed. You know, that sort of coincides with that's also the main product that we're buying from China as well. And the Chinese are currently selling it for less than it costs to produce. So really that needs to be looked in more than it is at the moment, because, you know, on the free market, we can say it's a free market and they can charge what they want, but if they're selling it for less than it costs to produce, then unfortunately they can't do that.
Jenny, it must be tempting as a local council, North Lincolnshire Council, that you want to be the only council in the country that actually operates its own foreign policy.
Yes, it is frustrating. Unfortunately, I can't comment on sort of, you know, the government stance on this, but I know that there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes to try and help with this situation. And certainly that's the role of the task force that I'm involved in, is to act in that lobbying capacity. And certainly the chair, which you've mentioned is Councillor Lady Redfern, is doing that as we speak now down in London. So, you know, what we can do as a local authority and as a task force, we are doing.
Is she lobbying for some sort of tariff protection for the British steel industry?
She's looking at anything that we possibly can do to help both the company and the individuals that are based in Scunthorpe.
Okay, and Matthew, is there any hope of a change in the tariff law? Forgive me, very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. We hope so. You know, it's one of the things we are trying to get.
And that's lobbying. You're lobbying.
Yeah, and we're lobbying. Yeah. Basically.
Well,
sorry. Yeah.
We'll come back to that.
Of course. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Forgive me. We must go to a break now. Please come back in a moment or two. Welcome back. Still with me in the studio are my guests Jenny Couch and Matthew Cook, discussing the job losses at Tata Steel in Scunthorpe. Before we continue, we will have another little look at the losses at Tata Steel. Dave Nunn went down to the Scunthorpe plant to get the reaction there.
It was the news many in Scunthorpe were bracing themselves for, and finally in late October it came. Tata Steel announced the cutting of 1,200 jobs nationally, with 900 of them being in Scunthorpe. It was the latest setback for the British steel industry after the SSI plant at Redcar was mothballed and over 2,000 jobs lost. The fallout over the job losses was shown in a clear split between the government and steelworkers and their unions. On one hand, North Lincolnshire Council recognised the severity of the situation and wanted to set up a task force to help those made redundant.
Yeah, really bad day for Tata employees as well as Scunthorpe and North Lincolnshire. So obviously today I'm organising a task force where we can sit together and work up some asks of government.
The steelworkers, on the other hand, laid the blame at the government, ignoring the signs of a collapsing industry. They point the finger at the government's lack of action regarding Chinese steel dumping, lack of action on business rates and carbon tax levies as the reasons for Tata's downfall.
I think the damage is done now, I'm afraid. You know, maybe something should have been done a bit earlier. But as I said, it was the same at Lysaght at Steelworks. It was terrible them days, you know.
The government should be doing, what the government should be looking at is tackling the carbon tax levy. That is absolutely crippling this business. The carbon tax levy, high business rates for these sort of industries and high energy bills.
Just coming up to Christmas, people, families with mortgages, these are real people with real families, and I don't think Mr Cameron understands this.
The government and North Lincolnshire Council acknowledged that business rates for Tata are high and are working on reducing them, but also say that EU rules bar them from interfering in the steel industry, creating a difficult situation, as Liz Redfern told us at the time.
It's a difficult situation. A lot of things have compounded in that. High energy costs, business rates, EU procurement rules that are very tight. The government is pressing for relaxation on that, the high pound. So it is very difficult, but all we're asking from the steel industry is a level playing field, and that's what we really want. We do, you know, UK steel is the best in the world, everybody knows that. So we want to be still here manufacturing and continue to manufacture.
But as mentioned earlier, a task force was set up by Councillor Redfern and Business Secretary Sajid Javid to try and ease the pain of redundancies, and she said at the time that it would be consolation for the 900 people being made redundant.
Yes, it'll be people sitting round discussing, as I say, our asks for government. So we shall have people from the Local Enterprise Partnership, Humber and Lincolnshire. We shall have the regeneration officers, we shall have DWP, Job Centre Plus, housing, just everybody round the table working up our asks, what we feel that we need here in Scunthorpe to support the workforce.
Steelworkers, though, think differently, and backed by their unions, they say that the government and council haven't done enough. The General Secretary of the Community Union said the government and council haven't done anywhere near enough to save an industry which has been in decline for a few years and are hiding behind the excuse of EU rules.
Well, no, they haven't done enough by any stretch of the imagination at this point in time. It's taken the absolute tragedy, unfortunately, of the closure of the steel mill, steel plant in Teesside to wake the government up to the situation that we have a crisis and we have serious challenges within the industry. Now, you know, the government are trying to do what they can, but they should have been doing this 12 2 years ago, 12 months, 2 years ago. We've been campaigning on these issues for years, and it's suddenly taken a tragedy to bring them to their senses, to say, yes, we need to recognise the challenges of the steel industry.
Whatever the case, it seems that the warning signs have been highlighted for a long time. Back in February, one of tonight's guests, Paul McBean, launched the local Stand Up for Steel campaign in Scunthorpe and warned that something needed to be done to keep the British steel industry going forward.
We just want a steel industry going forward. I mean, we have campaigns about the taking over alongs and the selling alongs, but it's not political, this is nothing to do with that. This is just a Stand Up for Steel campaign to make people aware of what could be lost with a foundation industry like the steel industry disappearing.
Well, Jenny, I just want to ask you a little bit about the other causes that are equally out of anybody's control, but the fact that there's a very strong pound and in fact steel coming in from Russia as well, because they've got a very weak ruble. That's another sort of tariff issue, isn't it? But the strong pound, in a way, is just a demonstration that the rest of the economy is doing rather well.
Yeah, the economy is doing well, and we've sort of seen that locally. The investment enquiries we're getting for the area are actually up to what they have been. So we know generally in the economy things are looking quite good.
But that's no help to us, is it?
Unfortunately not. We have some big projects coming along in terms of investment, and what we'd like to try and see is that local companies use local people, local products in terms of steel, but unfortunately it's back to the
Well,
cost.
we'll come back to that because there is a little bit of hope there with HS2 coming up, but we can maybe discuss that a little bit more. One of the other problems is the energy costs, Matthew. And that maybe is something that government can control.
Yeah, we pay much more for our energy than they do in the rest of Europe, which is something that definitely needs addressing.
Why? Why do we pay so much more?
I know part of it is the sort of taxes levied on us for the for having a high carbon footprint, but taxing us for that and then buying from China, who has an incredible carbon footprint. We seem to be getting it from all angles at the moment.
There's no way of running a steel plant. You can't run a power blast furnace with solar power, can you?
No. We need the levels of energy that we need. We do use a lot of electricity. We use a lot of gas. We go through a lot, but to levy that on us, as I say, and
in a way that other producers aren't having to pay.
Exactly. Yeah, we always seem to be going upstream. We're always fighting against something. It was something that for a long time was just accepted because, as you mentioned, the price of steel was a lot higher. There was a lot to come back in, but now we're having to make cuts everywhere, and we're making 900 job losses is our side of the cuts on the steelworks. We just hope that we get something back as well from.
The final reason that's been mentioned that Tata and Scunthorpe isn't making money is because of the high rates of local business taxation, business rates, and that's money going straight into, after the last autumn statement anyway, that would have been and will be money going straight into North Lincolnshire's pocket.
Yes, and I think that's, in terms of the future and looking at business rates, I think that's somewhere where we are lobbying as a task force to try and help and see what we can do. The issue with business rates does always come back to sort of state aid, and that's something that, again, as a country we're challenged on. But certainly, yes, business rates coming back into the area, we would be able to reinvest and we'll be able to hopefully create new jobs.
The business rates so that Tata isn't charged so much to do business in the area.
I think potentially when the monies are local, we've got more of an option. At the moment, we don't have that option, and it's still a challenge.
I know you can't speak as a politician on this matter, but you do have an insight working for the future of North Lincolnshire in the council. Is there a discussion of that? Is there a prospect of lowering the rates now that the council has that autonomy?
I can't comment on that at the moment. It's not something that I'm aware of that discussion taking place. But certainly, in terms of other opportunities that we have around enterprise zones, we can use some of the monies that come back in from the enterprise zones to help us in the local economy. And that's certainly something as a local authority we will be looking to do along with the local enterprise partnerships.
Matthew, tell me a little bit more about Tata Steel. It said that it wants to get rid of the Scunthorpe plant entirely. It would like to lose it by April.
Yeah.
But there's been talk of a management buyout. What's Tata's overall strategy? How do you see that?
Well, I mean, at the moment, we keep repeatedly hearing that, as you've just said, Tata really want rid of us. We know that, we've mothballed a plate mill and mothballed one of the coke ovens. That is a major saving. So as a worker there and as a union chairman, it sort of baffles you because few small changes and you know, things going our way, we will make money, and we will make lots of money.
But can you make money as fast as Tata Steel can elsewhere in the world? They're planning to build about 3 greenfield sites in India, 1 in Bangladesh, 1 in Iran, 1 in Vietnam, and they're building, even with this glut on the steel market, they're planning on expanding abroad.
That is one of our major issues, but you know, and as Jenny pointed out earlier, we do roll of the highest quality, and we've got history in steel. You know, so there's a wealth of experience where we are that you can't create anywhere else. And you know, without the plate mill draining quite a lot of money, and also the old coke ovens, you know, we can make huge sums of money, and we're projected to make money with the changes.
That experience and skillful workforce. Would your members be willing to move to Vietnam or Bangladesh? I suggest not Iran.
No, I doubt it. I mean, the thing with Scunthorpe is it's special in that the town was built for the steelwork, so there's a real big connection there. If you look at the overall size of both, the town isn't actually much bigger than the site of the steelworks. They're so interconnected and so intertwined. There's so many, you know, long-standing family relationships with that steelworks. You know, that's why we'd like to keep it where it is, really.
But Scunthorpe is steel, and steel is Scunthorpe.
Oh yes, 100%. I mean, just me personally, I work at the rod mill. My brother and my stepdad work there. I have a young cousin who's a first-year apprentice. So
it's a family business.
Definitely, yes,
Matthew,
definitely.
Thanks very much. We'll have to stop there. Come back after this short break. Welcome back. I'm still with Jenny Couch, Head of Economic Development and Area Renaissance at North Lincolnshire Council, and Matthew Cook, a branch chairman within the Community Union. Matthew, sorry, we were just talking about the Tata's plans. Clearly Tata doesn't have any plans to stay in Scunthorpe. They want to get out, but the steel will stay there. There has been talk of a management buyout, but who would fund that? Who would invest in a steel production at a time when the steel economy is so depressing in Europe?
Yeah, I think that, you know, Bimlendra, at Bimlendra Jar at the Scunthorpe Steelworks, he's doing a great job in, you know, showing people that we can be a viable business. As I mentioned, that there are a few, you know, it's essentially we've mothballed the plate mills and the coke ovens, so that when the buyers do come in, that is not a great blight on the figures, showing that they're losing so much.
But losing a coke oven is a bit sad, because you can't switch it back on again, can you?
No.
You say mothballed, but effectively it's killed.
Yes, and yes, we've seen that in Redcar as well. And it is really, it is a community changing thing. And I mean, that's the end of that coke oven. We're looking to invest in the other one that we've got. We're lucky that we've got 2 coke ovens, so we can still keep it in house and offset some costs there. But yeah, once they're gone, and we haven't got that much to play with anymore, I'm afraid.
Would government, Jenny, local and national government, there's not particularly any interest in saving the steel industry in this country, whatever the rhetoric, whatever they say, and Sajid Jafid, the business secretary, has said that he wants to defend it. Anna Sabri, who's one of his deputies of the industry minister, said that it's, you know, fundamental, but it's not really, is it? It only employs about 1.1% of employment in this country. It's not strategic. We already import more than half of the steel that we use in this country anyway. There's no particular incentive to look after it, is there?
I don't know. I mean, the message that certainly we're getting back through the task force is that the government want to make sure that steel remains in Scunthorpe. So that's kind of a different angle, really, from that point of view. Certainly the Prime Minister himself has spoken with Councillor Liz Redfern and sort of said that they want to save steel industry in Scunthorpe. So although, you know, you say that, I do think that there is a big desire, both at national and local government level, to retain steel in Scunthorpe.
But the Prime Minister can say he wants to save steel in Scunthorpe, just as the Prime Minister can say he wants peace and harmony in the Middle East. But he's not necessarily going to get what he wants, and it's not really within his power or Baroness Redfern's power to do much strategic, as it were, to look after the industry.
Again, I think that's something that, you know, I can't speak for them on that, and that is certainly something I know that they're looking at and they're discussing. And all we can do at a local level is lobby and provide the information and support that we need to help.
I know North Lincolnshire Council is doing that, but I just want to again just stay on the economics for just a little bit longer.
Okay.
And there is some hope there in a couple of good pieces of news. George Osborne, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, just after his autumn statement said that he was bringing HS2, a high-speed rail link, second high-speed rail link, forward by 6 years, and that there's a good chance that that will be in some way compelled to be buying British Steel for its rails.
And that's a real opportunity, I think, for the Scunthorpe Works. You know, it does excel in terms of the, you know, the rail work that it does. So, you know, we see that as a very positive statement.
Is that something that gives your members hope?
Yes, definitely. And you know, I think it's very easy to turn the plight of the steel industry into a numbers game. And like you say, it may be in the grand scheme of things a low employer throughout the whole country, but it's exclusive in that it's very concentrated areas. So by losing a steelworks, you are also losing a town. And I mean, obviously, I mentioned before we went up to Redcar, and their local economy has dropped very low very quickly off the back of the closing of their steelworks. Yes,
something the same as Scunthorpe.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, you know, it's not a major employer in terms of the whole country, but where it does employ, it employs a lot of people in the same vicinity. I know in Scunthorpe, every job that Tata Steel, you know, everybody directly on Tata Steel's books, there is 4 jobs in the wider community in steel. That doesn't include your things like your newspaper sellers, your sandwich shop, things like that. There's 4 jobs in the wider area there. And I think that's the problem. And in looking at it as numbers, it maybe doesn't give the true reflection of what it's like in a steel town, I think.
But is there, I mean, just on those two, well, that one specific thing, HS2, I mean, that's a guaranteed demand coming up and coming sooner than 6 years sooner than we expected. There's also, I heard last week, a possibility that the French railway system is going to decide to use Scunthorpe rails, and we can provide the transport of France.
Yes, well,
here in North Lincolnshire.
Yeah, I mean, and that's absolutely brilliant. We know we make an exceptional product, and all we need to do is show the world that we make an exceptional product. And I think that with the steel being in the news, it's making people, you know, look, where are we buying our steel from? Is it of the highest quality? And often, you know, specifically in terms of the Chinese dumping of steel, it's probably not of high quality. And a lot of customers of ours are buying Chinese steel, and then they're having to buy British again because it's just not up to their standard that they want or that they get from us.
Jenny, Matthew's saying there that it is completely devastating on the whole community. What are the effects specifically? What can we expect? What have we learned from other towns that have suffered from this sort of thing? What can we see in the future in Scunthorpe immediately?
I mean, I think that there's definitely a future for Scunthorpe, and I think Scunthorpe is quite a close town. People know each other, people are related to each other, and they pull together. In bad times, they pull together. We had a situation in 2011, 2012, and we got through that. And we will get through this. And I think, you know, you look at the community, you look at other opportunities that's available there in terms of support. UK Steel Enterprise, they have dedicated some monies to work with the local communities, so to help them get through these difficult times, to help people find new jobs if that's what it comes to, and to provide support and advice. So although I know that the town will be, you know, severely affected, it will survive and it will grow. And what we're looking to do is bring in new industries and new careers and new businesses that will actually make sure that it's a safer town in terms of its jobs for the future.
Well, there is a possibility that people will just move away. You know, people get on the bikes and go where the jobs are.
Yeah, I mean, there is that with anything, but I think because there's so much happening in and around North Lincolnshire, we've got a big development happening where we're creating 6,000 new homes and bringing in new industries on the South Humber Bank. For us, we actually see that there's more of an interest in the town. Working within economic development, I've been absolutely overwhelmed by the amount of support from businesses that are saying, we want to come and look at North Lincolnshire to come and relocate or to set up a new investment. So much so that we're actually having a jobs fair for companies that have got job vacancies currently, but also for, you know, companies that actually want to come to the area, want to set up new industries. So for me, it's actually, you know, there is a positive element to it. So I'm not doom and gloom about it. The town will survive and it will grow.
It's it is the problem of having a town that depends on one industry, isn't it? That if that industry goes, then that's absolutely devastating. Yeah. Grimsby and Hull have experienced that with the fishing industry in the past as well.
Absolutely, and some of these supply chain companies, you know, what we're trying to do now is to help them understand that they need to diversify. They need to look at, you know, their order books and see what they do. And one of the things we're doing is lobbying with national government to try and secure some support, financial support, to help our businesses, our local businesses that will be affected, to diversify and to go into new products and obtain new orders.
You mentioned the South Humber Bank. what are the industries that are coming in? Is it, I'm guessing renewable energy.
We're talking about renewable energy in terms of the significant jobs that are coming along. And again, you get your supply chain to those. I think one thing to mention is that the jobs that will be created there, the types of skills that are required are exactly the types of skills that are there on the site now.
How adaptable are you as a steel man? How adaptable are you?
Yeah,
can your skills be transferred?
Yeah, I mean, it's heavy industry, and although it is concentrated on steel rod at the moment, you know, they can be transferable. In an ideal world, we would keep with the steelworks, and we can all stay there and use our skills there. But you know, there is a future for Scunthorpe, I think, and definitely, you know, North Lincolnshire.
An industrial future.
Yeah, an industrial future. Yeah, and I think it's a bit of a changing of a relationship in recent years, in that where it's always been an us and them, I think you will now have the unions, and particularly community union that I'm a part of, working with the council to, you know, to make it known that we don't want something for nothing. We just need a hand up at this time.
Did the unions ever ask for something for nothing?
Well, I think everything we've asked for has been justified in the past. I think, yeah.
There's a lot of history before your time.
Yes, and that's what I mentioned. It's definitely a change in relationships. I think we're making it known that this isn't a permanent fixture. We're not permanently going to be in this hole. We just need the help immediately, and it will pay dividends for the town.
What can the union do? I mean, in any situation where people are being laid off, the union's only final sanction is to say we're going to stop working. When the employer is saying, well, that's what we want anyway.
Right.
There's not much you can do, is there?
Yes, I mean, when they announce job losses, you know, we can negotiate. We did our best to negotiate the numbers down. I think it was originally prospected to be 1,200 jobs, and that came down to 9. And then, you know, what's left from there is to put pressure on the company to allow people to leave voluntarily and open up their pensions there, and you know, that's what's going through at the moment. We have a lot of pensions briefings and things like that to bring people up to date.
And there are redundancy payments which presumably can go into buying pensions.
Yeah, and you know, and releasing the pension early and things like that. And I think that's where we are now. We're trying to facilitate as many voluntary redundancies as we can, so that nobody that doesn't want to go has to go, essentially.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. And those voluntary redundancies, one hopes people will stay in the town and spend that money within Scunthorpe.
Yeah, definitely. And these are people that are born and raised in Scunthorpe and have done 30 years on the steelwork. So, you know, not many people move away after that period of time in a town.
Welcome back. I'm still with Matthew Cook, a branch chairman within the Community Union, a trade union which represents workers in the iron and steel industries. And I'm with Jenny Couch from North Lincolnshire Council. Jenny, as well as the efforts that the council itself are making, there's an awful lot of money coming in to try to cushion this blow from outside.
Yes, I've been involved with the setting up of the task force, and I'm involved in the actual delivery of the task force in terms of things happening. We've already had an announcement that there's £9 million there, and what we're doing is we're working to help and see what support we can get for our local businesses, so to help them diversify and win those new orders that we've been talking about. So we know that we've got some money to help with training for individuals, and we've got UK Steel Enterprise that are looking to put sort of loans into the business community as well.
Well, just to break down that money a little bit, there's £9 million of government relief money, another £3 million from the government money from the government for training, specifically for training, and as you said, UK Steel Enterprise, which is part of Tata Steel, isn't it?
Yes, the 9 million actually is 3 million within that is for the training. 3 million is UK Steel Enterprise money, and the 3 million in terms of helping our businesses. But what we're doing is we're talking to government to see whether we could get further support to help our businesses.
So that's 12 million in all.
We're looking at the 9 million. There's 9 million at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're trying to encourage.
But UK Steel Enterprises, they're providing.
It's within that.
That's within the 9 million.
It's within the 9 million. Yeah.
Matthew, your colleague in the trade union movement, Tony Burke, the Assistant General Secretary of the Unite Union, said that this is a woefully inadequate response from the government to support a town and industry which is being rocked by job losses. Which are being rocked by job losses. Is he right?
I mean, primarily our number one objective is to not get the job losses in the first place, and you know, we want more. We always want more. It's a good start, and it's good to be announced. And I think the difference is we don't want this to be the only thing. It needs to be ongoing and continual. You know, it currently makes for good headlines, but what we'd like is to see it transferred and for it to keep going. And I think that's, you know, that's the difference. It's okay putting the money there and saying that the money's there, but you know, we need to see how it's going to be used and where specifically, and be assured that it's going to keep going. It's going to keep coming.
That does amount. I mean, I know it won't be spent simply as handed over on a headcount basis,
Yeah.
but that's a little less than £10,000 each for the 900 people who've lost their jobs. Yeah. That's not. I mean, that's not a future. That doesn't buy anybody a future. But it seems like on top of any redundancy payments, on top of any pensions, it does seem to sweeten the pill a bit.
You know, it's a good sum of money for them people involved. But you know, as I say, I think it's a major blow finding ourselves in this situation at all. And I believe, you know, and that's where his comments there come from. You know, we would have liked to have had the money in the steel industry rather than have to use the money to re-employ those that have lost the money in the steel industry, and I think that's the difference.
£9 million doesn't buy you much kit in a steel
No.
I'm regret to say. Jenny, the training is crucial to the future, but specifically what will the training on offer be? Because once you're a steel man, those skills may be transferable to other heavy engineering jobs, but there's an awful lot of industry where knowing how to pour liquid steel isn't particularly useful.
Absolutely, and I think that, you know, that's why it's really helpful that we have got some dedicated money just purely for training. Initially, I mean, starting next week, we've got some training sessions and some workshops running for just completing CVs and understanding, you know, about how to look for a job, interview techniques, that kind of thing, to help individuals. So it's going to go from the very basic support that you need, first of all, right through to retraining. So if somebody says, well, actually, you know, I've done this for 20 years, but I want to do something different, this funding will hopefully enable those individuals to be able to do that. What we can also do is we're working with Job Centre Plus, and basically they have access to some funds as well, so that if somebody says that they have, I don't know, they need a safety passport, we can get that quickly for them through this funding.
A safety passport?
Yeah, it's basically a certificate to be able to go and work on site. Right. So you know, it could be a particular qualification. And what we can do is we're trying to ensure that we can get those done quickly, so that people can move if they are in that unfortunate position that they're going to be unemployed, that we can get them into something new. But it is an opportunity to look at you know, what you do and say, actually, I want to do something different.
You should probably mention that jobs fair that you alluded to earlier.
Yeah, one of the initiatives of the task force is we are holding a jobs fair on Thursday the 17th of December. It's on site at Tata. What I want to stress is that it's not just for Tata employees, it's for anybody in the supply chain that's going to be affected. So anybody's welcome to come along between 1 and 7. And I say there, at the moment, we've got 19 companies coming along who are currently advertising vacancies, and they want to make sure that the employees at Tata know about them, and we would encourage anyone that is in the position to go along with their CV and talk face to face with those businesses. It's something that works really well that we've unfortunately had to do before.
And that's not just for ex-steel people.
It's not open necessarily to all the public, but it's open to people that have been affected by this announcement. So those people that are, you know, within Tata as Tata employees, or those individuals that are within the supply chain.
Matthew, I just want to throw a final political aspect of it to you here, about the nature of having a steel economy in this country. Jeremy Corbyn was at a meeting in the Midlands earlier this last week, and he said that if the he's effectively advocated nationalisation of the steel industry. His example was that we need Cameron and Osborne to act as decisively in 2015 as Gordon Brown did in 2008, when Labour part-nationalised RBS and Lloyds to prevent economic collapse. And he also cited the Italians as having done this.
Yeah, I think that comes from frustration, sort of having a different, one rule for one and one rule for another. You know, the steel industry was nationalised for one rule for banks and one rule for for the steel workers and the heavy industry. You know, it's widely believed that, you know, we're a long way from Westminster, so with the banks on their doorstep, they know what's happening there. They're not
Well,
too
Royal
savvy
Bank
on the
of
media
Scotland is
industry.
based in Edinburgh.
Yeah, well,
I'm being pedantic.
yeah, but you know, and you know, it would be a good idea to nationalise the steel industry, but it's going to cost a lot of money, and really we need to be cost effective and running it as well as we possibly can, as it stands. So, you know, I wouldn't say advocate a full renationalisation, but we need to see the sorts of reassurances and the sort of aid that you don't want to sort of bash the bankers, say, but the sort of aid that they got in their you know, economic downturn, essentially.
Well, there is a slight difference, I would suggest, in that the bankers, A, are necessary for any economy. You need to have that availability of capital and that assembly of capital. Yeah. And B, that there was always a prospect of the finance sector returning to a healthy state.
Yeah.
There isn't a prospect of the steel sector returning to a healthy state in any foreseeable future, and you don't necessarily need to have a steel industry in order to run the rest of the economy.
Well, I mean, the steel industry is vitally important for lots of aspects of our economy, and if you look at things like defence, I mean, we've nearly eradicated our whole plate making business. If we can't make our own plates, we're not ready to make our own defences, we're not ready to make our own ships and tanks and things like that. We can't do that, and it's putting faith in other countries there where we could keep them in-house, and you know, it is essential to other businesses.
To building tanks and frigates and things, that's not going to be enough, though, is it?
No, but and you know, it's very easy to say, you know, HS2 is only for the rail. I mean, we at the rod mill will get a major business from there because the rail needs nuts and bolts and things like that to go. We're always making steel, you know, and our customer demand is massive. And I think just saying it's the steel industry and all we do is we create blooms or plates or bits of rail, you know, it's very easy to look at it as a small business, but when you look at it in a wider context, it's huge.
Forgive my ignorance. Very quickly, what's a bloom?
It's just a sort of a bar of steel. There's a difference between a bloom and a billet. A bloom is larger than a billet.
It's a steel ingot.
Yeah, basically, it's a large, you know, steel bar essentially.
Sorry, I'm being a little.
Yeah, that's fine.
Jenny, it sounds to me as if it's not all doom and gloom. I mean, it's very, very bad news, but there's a great deal of a possibility of a fantastic future, or at least more of a future, and there's a great deal done to alleviate the harm.
There absolutely is, and I think just by, you know, seeing the task force working together, and the unions are involved in those, you know, at a delivery level, we're all working together to make sure that the individuals that are affected receive the help and support that they need. As a local authority, we're trying to ensure that new jobs are created. We've got experience, we've done this in the past. This isn't new to Scunthorpe, is it? We've been here before, it's survived and will survive for a long, long time to come.
Well, on that note, I think that's a sufficiently cheerful place to stop. Bad news, of course, but maybe something positive.
Something on the horizon, yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much for watching Hot Topic. Thank you to my guests, Jenny Couch and Matthew Cook. Please tune in again for another Hot Topic next week. Until then, goodbye.